he did the falsetto a little too much on the album, and honestly, like, I don't care at all for the lyrics. Like, I didn't pay attention to them. They don't do anything. They're kind of background, but they're just kind of another part to it. Almost like, you know how Buzz doesn't care about lyrics with the Melvins typically, and that, like, it's just kind of there. I'd say that's probably the weakest link for the album, but I don't think it was a bad thing.
The lyrics or the vocals?
Both. I think that was probably the weakest part of the album, but I don't think that made the album bad. I think that he tried to do a lot of. I think he tried lyrics and vocals and all that for like Clockwork. I think that was one more reason why I didn't like it. This, I thought the music was so good and the production was good that I was like, I'm just not going to pay attention to what the lyrics are and with the vocals. But I thought otherwise it was fine, so I didn't think it detracted from it. But I can totally see Ted's side of it as well. Like, especially if Ted's not listening to the whole back catalog and has anything invested, it's definitely hard to get into, like, to jump in to just start listening to Villains.
Yeah, it's production-wise, as far as their albums go, they definitely took on a different route. I don't know what engineer they went with, but it definitely sounds more polished than previous Queen's albums. A lot of the previous albums were very guitar dominant, where it was kind of blaring out all the other pieces in the music. And this is more of a balanced sound that they got going on. Also, throughout their career, they've had a big span of musician guests in every album, from like Mark Lanigan, Alan Johannes, Nicola Verri. And this was the first album where it was just a core band, no guest musicians. So that could have done some kind of influence on the writing of the music, allowing the core band to express themselves more as a solid unit. But overall, I've been liking it. I mean, I'm not the most hardcore Queens of the Stone Age fan, but I have followed projects that they've been involved with, like Pious, Desert Sessions, Eagles of Death Metal, and so on.
Would this be an album that you listen to? Steady rotation?
It's been on repeat every now and then, last few days, so I would say so.
I made the mistake of listening to that third track, like right before going into work, and I had that thing stuck in my head, man, and I'm just, and I'm doing like what Ted said with the vocals, I'm just, you know. I don't know. I really like the album. I'm not a big Queens of the Stone Age fan either. They've always just been around. And then whenever I've tried to listen to them, it's like they dance the line of music that I typically like, and they go back and forth. It's like, when I start getting into a song, I'm like, oh, this is a good song. And then it kind of leans away from something that I would like. It gets real poppy, and I kind of veer away from that kind of sound. But this one, it's really poppy. You know, my first thoughts were, wow, it sounds like Bowie, but that's just kind of, the vocals sound like that. I think the overall production it really does have like an 80s kind of sound to it. Homme really does have strong command of the construction of a song and how to get certain sounds. You can really tell that he puts a lot of effort into his craft, and it's just really, it sounds great. Everything is just really put together well.
Yeah, I was reading an interview with him recently, and he was also citing dance music to be more of an influence to this record. The songs do sound a little bit more dancey, disco beat thing going on, and more synthesizers.
I had that kind of feel too. Kind of feels like John Hughes movie, where like Pretty in Pink, you know, like where people are dancing. That kind of sound. I don't know what genre that is. What is that? New wave? What is that?
Yeah, it's like new wave. Yeah,
it kind of has that feel to it. So were you able to get through the whole album, Ted?
Yeah, while I was working in the kitchen. Little paying attention to it, but other stuff too.
So it didn't really grasp your attention?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I try to give things 3 listens at least. I think it's a good record. The vocals are the weak spot for me. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put the $10 down and get the CD while it's cheap. I don't have the liner notes. Is Lanigan on this one?
Not this one.
Mm-hmm. No.
No, he hasn't been on the past couple. He just did like a guest, like one song on the last album, and before that, he only did like a song or two. So he comes and goes as he pleases. But I think Josh is kind of leaning towards, like it was like George was saying. I don't think he's really going for guests as much anymore.
Okay.
At least for this album, you never know what the next one's gonna be.
So overall, this is wrap up Villains. If you were to give it like a 10-star rating or whatever, how would you rate the album? As a music critic, how would you rate the album?
I'd probably give it an 8. I'd say it's I mean, I think definitely the turn is the vocals on that, but like usually I'm way more critical of vocals. Like that's kind of the number. It's not it's like sex in a relationship. It's not the most important thing, but if it's bad, it's bad, and it ruins everything. so I can't see past the bad vocalist, even if the rest of the band is good. So, but in this case, I'm like, these aren't the best or whatever, but everything else sounds so good and so well done that it's one of the few instances that I can just kind of tune out that part. So yeah, I can definitely see myself listening to this album as a whole. I think that's one of the weaker links of Queens of the Stone Age and Josh Homme and his projects in general. Is he has a lot of good songs, and there are a lot like it's like the perfect band to make a greatest hits. But there's very few of his albums that are great from beginning to end. There's always a weak link. The first Queens of the Stone Age album, the Songs of the Deaf, I think is the closest to like from beginning to end that you can listen to everything without having to skip something. But this one, I'd say I think it's close to that as well. Like I can see this one just playing it from beginning to end without having to skip around in that, which I think is a really good achievement for him.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on those 2 albums. Probably would give it an 8 as well. I could see myself listening to this album for a few weeks until I wear it out.
Yeah.
Ted?
Probably about a 6 right now, but I'm leaning to more towards the first 2. I'd say Rated R is their best. I can't give Villains an 8 while Rated R and the first one are out there.
I like this album a lot. I tried showing it to Tanya because I thought she might like it, and we listened to the first 3 songs, and her response was, "This is awful," and that was it. I was like, okay, I like it. Now I know I can't listen to it with her around. Yeah, I gotta start with the last song. You know what, that last song, I thought it was a cover. I was like, it sounds like an 80s pop song, and I couldn't place it. And I looked it up because I really thought it was a cover. And I didn't want to sound dumb like with Bauhaus and Bela Lugosi's Dead. Okay, well, I think we're going to end on that note. It's a good note to end on. Thank you for listening to the Party at James podcast. Stay tuned for the conclusion of this episode. I'm going to let this last song play out. You can pretend that you're dancing with Molly Ringwald. Thank you. Miss you now, what's come over me? Hostages of geography. The wait is long. Too, despite what you're accustomed to, I know life moves on. That's what scares me so. I've no intentions of letting go. Only no
in the night.